As a public sector, we embraced the need to work differently while being effective, efficient, and continuing to provide service excellence. Remote working has resulted in many benefits, but if we are to continue to view working from home as the future of work, we must fully investigate the productivity issues. It is indeed a pleasure to have partnered with the Jamaica Productivity Center to deliver this webinar to you. Once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am now going to hand over to Codian Hall, Client Relations and Marketing Officer, who will introduce our presenter, Tamar Nelson.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you all a very accomplished woman. She has over 20 years experience working in both the public and private sector as a business process improvement consultant. Throughout this period, she has developed and delivered a number of improvement interventions, which include energy solutions and training programs in the area of productivity improvement based on Lean Six Sigma principles, both locally and internationally, to over 250 organizations. Her work experience also includes training and facilitation, logistics, engineering and project management, energy conservation and management, business process analysis and re-engineering, inventory control, strategic planning, and warehouse management, to name a few. She holds a Master of Science degree in Industrial and Systems Engineering from the Rochester Institute in New York, as well as a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering from the University of the West Indies, Trinidad. She is a certified Lean Six Sigma Sensei, a certified Scrum Master, a certified Energy Manager, and a professional engineer. Throughout her work life, she has enjoyed influencing policy and the implementation of solutions regarding growth, sustainability, and innovation. Please help me welcome the head and Chief Technical Director of the Jamaica Productivity Center, Mrs. Tamar Nelson.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. What a fine welcome we have received so far.
Okay, Tamar, I'm going to launch the poll.
Okay.
No problem. Great. Get this show on the road.
Okay.
Okay, colleagues, we're going
All
to
right,
launch.
so this thing is starting now, the work from home thing. So I'm going to start. All right, but yeah, so just remember, yeah, we just need to finalize it, Troy. All right.
All right, colleagues, we're just going to launch 3 polls, and we're going to ask you to just respond to the questions by selecting one of the options. Just going to give you a couple more seconds for everyone to respond. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, and you'll be able to see the results.
All right.
The second question being launched now.
Georgia, if you
Yes,
can wait to launch the second one until
okay.
we can do that in the middle of the presentation.
Okay, no problem.
I'll let you know when we can launch the next one.
Sure.
Thank you so much. So it's over to me now. I may proceed.
Over to you, Tamar.
Thank you, Georgia and team. Thank you, Mind. And thank you, everyone. Sorry. For joining in this morning. We have, as Georgia said, an overwhelming response. And I know a few persons, sorry, we're not able to. 1 second, please. Let me. Back my voice for a little bit. This is what happens when you have speaking engagements back to back for 2 weeks. So my voice is going. I'll give it a break this week and next week. So, right, thank you for your patience. Well, welcome again, everyone. And today we're going to have a discussion speaking about working from home. Now, 74% of you have benefited from some form of flexible arrangement. And no doubt, over the past 19 months or so, would have experienced different things, good things, bad things, some things that have probably enabled you to grow. But what we're here today is to have a conversation on this whole matter of working from home and productivity and what are the implications for the future. So, it's a conversation, as I have said. So we want to ensure that you are engaged with us. We have the polls, and thank you for participating in the polls. And we want to see you in the chat as well. I'll be monitoring the chat, and so will other persons from Mind to answer any questions you may have as we go on. Now, as mentioned before, I am the Chief Technical Director of the Jamaica Productivity Center, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But some of the things that we are going to speak about today would include definitions regarding working from home and what are some of the trends. So throughout the presentation, you will see some of the data that we have prepared, not just looking at our situation locally in Jamaica, but also looking at the world trends. Because you know how we are in Jamaica, we follow right behind our global trading partners, and even more so now that we are so much more connected in this industrial space that we're in. We're going to also dive into a little bit more about productivity, because if we're going to improve something, we have to know more about it so that we can know how we can improve and address the issues that we face. And the whole matter of working from home and efficiencies working from home and how to do that. And a little bit about measuring productivity. So what we have condensed and put together for you, ladies and gentlemen, is, probably a week worth of training. And we have condensed it into 2 hours, right? And what I want to do is to ensure that we have a little time at the end so we can have a discussion or chat to answer some of the questions or to just share information that you may have. Right? So a little bit more about us. We are a department within the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. We are charged, the National Productivity Organization in Jamaica, charged with driving productivity improvement and supporting global competitiveness for the well-being of individuals, organizations, and industries in Jamaica. And we are here to assist the nation to be more productive and innovative And we do so through advocacy, consultancy, research, knowledge, and technical assistance. And on the call here this morning, we have our head of technical assistance and our head of research and measurement, who are also on hand to speak to any questions you may have today. Of course, this is a tall order for a group of all of 10 individuals. And so we are very happy to be able to partner with Mind this afternoon, or this morning rather, to be able to share with you and, the wider Jamaica what productivity can do in this dispensation. And Wendy Jo, yes, you will get the presentation at the end. So one thing is for sure is that we are in the age of disruptions. The disruptions may take many forms. So it may be political, it may be a pandemic. And what is happening is that the disruptions are happening on rapid. So this is what persons have called a disruptive economy. And what it has forced us to do is to be very innovative and transform our business and operating models to one that's more responsive to any threats or crises, and to be able to respond very quickly to these. So we are building more resilient teams and organizations as a result of it. It's not a pleasant thing to go through, and many of us have had challenging situations at work and at home during these times. However, we can see the opportunities and the growth that has happened as a result of this. And so some of the trends we are seeing is that, many companies won't be able to reopen after a disaster. Right? Statistics have shown up to 40%. And 25% of those who, start their business will fail within a certain period of time. And after a crisis, you will see that about 2 years after that, about 90% of businesses will fail. So what that means is that there will be movements in labor, the labor market. Persons will be changing jobs, occupations. They'll be looking for other opportunities. And so we have to bear that in mind and manage those situations before they happen. And why we're doing so is that what we want to do is to move from being in a reactive situation to a more preventative, predictive situation where we are thriving. So what this calls for is not doing things as usual, but more unusually. And we call on persons to really, embrace this whole thought of being thrivers in this space and to adopt a new model. So if you were, for example, you do an assessment of your situation today, am I doing the same things that I was doing pre-pandemic? Have I changed anything? Has anything improved? If you have not been changing or improving during this time, that's not a good thing, right? What we are doing is widening the gap, and pretty soon we'll fall off the edge. We have to be learning new skills, adopting new technology, seeing what's happening out there and adopting these, because it's not the usual business space. And one thing that I have been saying is that this pandemic situation that we are in is not a pause button that you can just press play when it's all gone. A lot has happened during that time, and we will need to change as a result of what the environmental factors are that are against us. Yes, Juliet, we definitely need to have a more proactive approach. And by being proactive and planning accordingly, what that will open up is for us to see the opportunities that exist. And we don't want those opportunities to pass us by, because we may actually be sitting on a gold mine and can't even see it, right? So this is a time where we need to test the boundaries, to try different things, to try new things, a more collaborative and cooperative approach to leverage the resources we have and to really thrive in this dispensation. So in terms of some of the definitions and trends, what we're seeing, in terms of working from home, it's telecommuting, distance, remote working, mobile work, flexible work, telework. But what ILO has described as home-based work is one in which work is carried out by a person in his or her home or in another premise of his choice other than the workplace of the employer, right? And it results in a product or a service as specified by the employer, irrespective of who provides the equipment, the materials, or other inputs used, right? Let me just get that in my chat. Oh, right. And we're going to get to that, Caroline. We're going to get to that point on the change in the mindset that needs to happen as we work towards working from home. That's definitely a must. And I wanted to know, what has been your experience working from home? Has it been a positive one, a negative one? What has been your experience? You can type it in the chat. Mixed. I don't want to be talking to myself. That's how I know that you're here with me. It's very good, Ruth. Awesome. Positive, Maxine. Thank you. Challenging the children at home. Yes, great. A bit of both. Mixed. Mostly positive. Good. Very productive and efficient. Yes. I've enjoyed work from home. Work-life balance. Mixed. Mixed. But I've seen a little bit of each. Mixed. Right. Right, so some persons are not able to work from home. Some are saying that it's positive, and I should actually give a disclaimer, everyone, that I am working from home today because the internet at work is unstable. So I'm working from home today. So if you see any children pass the screen, any dogs barking, please note, and I will ensure that no animals or humans are harmed in the creation of this presentation or during the duration of this presentation, right? So we're seeing that we're having a mixed feel here. Persons are enjoying it, but there are pros and cons indeed. And what this pandemic has done, it has pushed us to work from home, to allow for business continuity. Before, it was unheard of, right? It has actually fast-tracked us into the world of the future, right? And, I spoke to someone the other day, and they said, what this pandemic has done is to make the impossible possible, because they would never have been able to do some of the programs or training that they have been able to do. And I know a lot of the MIND participants, and Georgia can attest to that, would not have been able to do some of the programs because they wouldn't be able to get here or drop off the kids, etc. But this has opened up the opportunity for new learning experiences, and persons are now pursuing PhDs, law degrees, different programs, because it has forced us into this space. And so, we don't want to go back, but to look and to see what worked well and what didn't work well, right? And to see how we can build on that, and not just to go all the way back, because the world is now hybrid. if we want to accept it or not, the world has gone hybrid, right? So we have to embrace the changes that's happening in the world space. If we don't, it will be to our detriment. So some of the things that we are seeing trending is, pre the pandemic. Let me just see if I can change this here. Right. We had 2019, 260 million home-based workers. That's 7.9% of global workforce. And in 2020, Q2, that number, almost doubled or more than doubled, where you had 557 million employees working from home. And that's 17.4% of world employment. Now you can imagine 2021, what that looks like, right? Right, Anne-Marie went to a conference in Europe. Very well. I've been able to connect with my friends in Australia and England, almost weekly due to this pandemic. So I'm very happy to maintain those connections that wouldn't have been possible before, or we didn't think of it before, right? Because that's another thing, that a lot of these, the technology, the equipment, etc., that we are using now, we had access to them before, but weren't maximizing it, right? So a lot of us, we had Zoom, we had Microsoft 365, we had all of those tools, but we weren't utilizing it to the full. We have the servers, we have the VPNs, and, we weren't maximizing that investment that we had made into our business, into our operations, into our lives. And, that's what productivity is all about, efficiently utilizing the resources that you do have. And it begs the question, what other things, capabilities, capacities do we have in our organizations that we are not utilizing fully, that could actually increase our productivity with little or no investment, but just a little more focus and determination, right? And we are seeing the trends in terms of home-based working happening all across the world, right? The benefits, and we saw some of them in the chat. It goes both for the employer and the employee, where there is more work-life balance, more flexibility, greater motivation, higher job retention, savings, and also increased productivity. Have you seen any of this in your space? Anybody get the savings? In terms of, I know there are trade-offs, for example, but persons would have spoken, and I will share some of the survey results, that, saving money. Thank you, Colette. Yes. We are focused out of our comfort zones. Exactly, Andre. Thank you for that. Oh, and to all the men who are listening in, happy International Men's Day. I forgot to say that. And you see, I am wearing a pin just to acknowledge that. Right, so China K saves on gas, but paid back in utility bills. Yes, savings definitely for all. For those who have children, we are able to give them better meals at home, have a better relationship with them sometimes, because they get on your nerves sometimes, right? But, but you learn things that you didn't know before, and, persons are able to exercise more, have a better schedule, etc., right? Productivity better, but mostly for workers who are results oriented. Suzanne. Wow, you dropped one there for us, man. I will get into that. I think you're saving one area but spending another area. More peace of mind. Wow. Who wouldn't pay for that? Right? Thank you, Debbie, Diane, Suzanne. Right. Learning to multitask more efficiently. Lise, but is that very productive? And working in your comfort zone, less traffic. I love that. Can I tell you, when you can go to time yourself to go to New Kingston and back, it's a blessing, right? So we are seeing a lot of benefits, right? A lot of pros. significant reduction in quality of life, exactly. And persons we are seeing are now wanting more flexibility. And those companies that are offering flexibility are the ones who can retain their staff and the talent going forward. That's the trend that's happening, right? Motivation. And, you know, Suzanne raised a very good point, and we're going to touch on it a little bit later on the whole matter of motivation. But continue with some of the stats. Remote workers can be up to 40% more productive. International Workplace Group. Remote workers say they are more likely to stay in their current job for the next 5 years, right? If they have that option. And 54% of employees would move to a more flexible job. And that's by Gallup, right? Are we seeing these trends in Jamaica? Do we feel the same way? I think they are very indicative. But there are challenges. You feel the same way, Sasha. Thank you. Right? There are challenges. And I think some persons mentioned it earlier. Right? Yes, Juliet, I hear you. Right? Monitoring of work. Cost of technological infrastructure. Security problems. Communication problems. It may not be suitable for all jobs. Inconsistent implementation across occupations and industries. And there's also a cost to workers, right? Which one of these would be the lack of understanding? So which of these would be your top challenge in your space? Monitoring of work. Are you able to monitor the work of persons? We are very used to, a time-based monitoring, right? Not suitable for all jobs, right? The cost, not suitable for all jobs. Thank you, Shane. Of monitoring and suitability. All right. Wow. Yeah, those are the main ones. Interesting. Cost to workers, communication problems, communication. Yes, Juliet. Yes, Juliet. Inconsistent implementation. That's true. We have seen some companies flip and flop, right? So I think all of them, I think in the chat we're seeing where persons would have experienced any one of these, but the top one seems to be the monitoring of work and not suitable for all jobs. Right, those seem to be the top feedback in the chat. And yes, we have been seeing that at the Jamaica Productivity Center as well, where a lot of the persons that call in, not sure how to traverse into the remote space. We are so used to having physical bodies in and, having productivity measured by the time that you sign in and the time that you log out, but not what happens in between. That this has been one of the serious challenges that persons face. So what this requires is us moving now to a more outcome-focused form of monitoring our work, or results-based focus, and not suitable for all jobs, yes, right? Longer delays in the production process, more meetings and late hours, yes, we have seen that. Anybody here has been into like having at least say 6 Zoom meetings in a day or more? Yes, Wendy Joe. Yes, Sasha. Alicia, Dion, Sharna. Wow. More meetings. Yes, too many meetings. Yes. Meetings are happening at the same time, sometimes every day. 3 meetings at the same time, Anne Marie. Sometimes, right? Meetings can't be managed. I just accept and decline as needed. Good approach, Natasha. Meetings every day, Corinne. I'm currently in 2 meetings. Thanks for choosing this one. Delia, yes. Any hour, right? So, and that's one of the things with remote working. Everyone, we are a lot more accessible, and persons just send meeting requests and expect that we're going to accept all of them and be at everyone. And what this can do, and I'm sure you have experienced it, is severe burnout at the end of the day, where you're just dead tired, even more tired than you would be in office. So this is something that really has to be managed. And you don't just need to have a meeting just to have a meeting's sake. But what I found that we have to do at this time, even at the productivity center, and the team can tell you, is that, to look at what meetings we are having. Do we need to have these meetings? And to rationalize what we need to have, and don't just have a meeting about the work and then we still have the work to do after that, right? So we are more punctual, definitely, for our online meetings, RDs. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And we end up watching the recorded sessions, Laura, yes, and that lengthens the work day. So it's definitely a different dispensation, and we have to manage them accordingly, or else we will end up not getting a lot done, not being productive at all, right? And we want to be as efficient as possible. So we did a survey, and we saw we're in 2020, the respondents, 96 had adjusted to work arrangements, but 92% found that these were somewhat effective or very effective, right? 37.3% of companies in Jamaica that we had surveyed introduced completely working from home, and respondents most frequently noted that infrastructure and mindset were some of the inhibitors to the alternative work arrangements. So the same we're seeing here in this discussion, same thing in 2020. Now, we had persons in the chat say it's not suitable for everyone, right? So I'm going to pose a question here. Who should work from home, Shanna or Noel? Shanna is an ICT manager. She's a mother of 2. She's 43 years old and works in New Kingston but lives in St. Thomas. And we have Noel, who is a records officer, resides and works in Kingston, experiences frequent power outages at home, has comorbidities, and is 27-year-old. Who should work from home? I see in Shanna, Noel, Ernest. Both can. Both, Shanna, both. Noel. Right? I see a lot of Shannas, a lot of Noels, a few Noels, and I've seen a lot of both. Exactly. Right. It is possible. It is possible for both. Right. Noel has internet challenges. JPS works against Noel. The records officer would have a problem carrying home files. Right. So school is still online, right? So what we're seeing here, and I think, yes, Shanna is better able to work from home, and she has a very compelling reason. But Noel also has a compelling reason, but he has challenges, right? So in any situation, what this is showing is that, there's no one size fits all, and you'd have to take into consideration, 1, your team, and 2, what it is that they will be doing, and if they can indeed do it from home, right? I saw in the chat where persons are saying, he can't carry the files home, and that may be true. But someone else says, well, can they be digitized? That may be possible, right? Would it benefit the company in terms of less cost too? You might be able to, rent a smaller space if you have, reduce your online or operating expenses, right? Shana may be able to not be able to focus at home with two children at home, but maybe she can manage herself so that she can do the work when they have gone to sleep, for example, right? And not all records officer works with physical files. But what this shows everyone is that there is no hard and fast rule when it comes to working from home, right? And so we have to really be cognizant of that. And it requires a different skill set in terms of managing a hybrid situation or a fully remote situation. And it's not just managing a team, for example, going to Susan's point earlier, but we really have to develop other softer skills. It requires more engagement, greater communication, and coaching as well. So you will have to train, ensure they have the tools available, and to be able to be efficient wherever they are working, whether in the office or at home, and set clear guidelines so that they know exactly what it is that they have to do, what is required of them, what the outcome and outputs are, right? And once persons are clear and have a framework in which to work with, working from home can have less challenges, right? Just continuing. So who are likely to work from home? What the studies have shown that those who are formally employed, salaried workers, adult employees, persons doing higher education or working higher education, professional, technical, managerial, and administrative occupations. Who are less likely? Informal workers, youth workers, persons with lower qualifications, low earnings, or in the service industry. And the higher the income, the higher the percentage of workers carrying out their work from home. And this was a study done by ILO in May 2020, where high income earners were 27% were working from home, and that you can see the trends as you know, to the upper middle 16, lower middle 12 percentage, and all countries overall 18% working from home. And this was Q2 2020. Right? And yes, Anne-Marie, not all technical persons can work from home. So these are just some trends that we're sharing. So if we're going to improve productivity, we have to know exactly what it is. And we're going to first speak about what productivity is not. Now, productivity is not production. We are very good at producing things, right? So it's not just how much output we're talking about, because we can do stuff, but we're looking at how much output we are doing given the inputs we are putting in, and that is productivity. So oftentimes we interchange, but this is a key point that I want you to remember, right? So if we have 2 persons doing a particular job, if we increase the number of persons to 4 and getting the same output, the same production, our productivity would have actually decreased. So we have to be mindful of that. So if we're increasing our inputs, we should see greater output. Let me see what the chat is saying. Right. Okay, great. And working harder is not improving your productivity, right? And you know the adage, working hard versus working smart. Right? So working smarter would include being more efficient and effective in whatever we're doing. So we can get more done in a shorter given time, for example. Right? So it's not that. So it's not, productivity is also not an event. It's not just acing something and that's it. It's not just going faster. It's not a production, right? That's not what productivity is. Productivity is the mathematical formula, output over input. And if you want to increase productivity, you have to increase your output while keeping your input constant or lowering your inputs. So some of your inputs could be land, labor, capital, or time. Could be all of them together. And the output would be the outcome you desire, your goods or your services. Right? So what we see a lot happening in, when we work with our stakeholders is that the input may be getting bigger, but the output is growing at the same rate or less. And that means that your productivity isn't going up, it's the same or going down. So we want to be mindful of how we are translating our input into outputs. If we are wasting things, unutilized resources, do we have excess capacity that we are not utilizing, excess talent within our teams that we are not utilizing? These are the times that we need to really be innovative to see what it is that we have that we can do more with. And so a lot of these don't cost much. As I said, it just requires some focus and effort. All right, let me, it's this, 1 second. All right. So, all right. The KPI should remain the same no matter if you're home or in the office. We need the resource to drive efficiency and effectiveness. Definitely, Juliet. Definitely. Right, we have to have inputs. Now, continuing on the same matter of productivity and looking at outputs and inputs, I just wanted to share with you one of the productivity stats. And we're looking at productivity indicators year on year. And what we're seeing, for example, is this column that speaks to value adding, that's your output, right? The average change is 1.2%. But we're seeing that the input of labor, for example, grew by 1.6%. So, the denominator grew larger than the numerator, which means that our output per worker change would have been negative. And if we look at capital productivity, for example, compared to your output, it was about the same. So it's 1.1% change versus 1.2% change. So we had a positive growth in that area, but it's 0.1%. What we want to see is some larger numbers than that. We want to see 10% growth in these figures. But it means that all of us will have to chip in to get these figures up. Productivity is one of those things that affect everybody and everybody affects it, right? It's just like safety. We have to be in charge of our own safety and that of others. The same thing applies to productivity. And this is something that we have been challenged with as a country for many, many years. Slow or low growth in terms of our output. So we are doing things but not doing them effectively and efficiently. And we need to really get to the point where we can have greater positive growth, but it will take a concerted effort of everybody working together to make our nation more productive. So I have another question here for you now, guys, everyone on the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Which company would you say is more productive? Or rather, has a higher productivity? Let me hear from you. So we have company, we have company one, entity one. The entity is employing 500 persons and protecting and advocating the rights of 300,000 workers. Entity two, a private firm worth 50 billion that employs 150 people and provides services to 1 million customers. All right, so the chat is clearing up. Entity three, a non-profit that supplies the basic needs of 20 indigenous communities and has 30 employees. All right, so who is entity two, entity two, entity three? They're all productive in their own way. Yes. Entity two, right? Entity two. So we have a resounding response here for entity two. It's hard to compare, and it really depends. They're all productive in their own rights. But if we're looking at efficiencies, we have to do a deeper analysis. But, at first glance, yes, definitely entity two. But it really depends. And we have to look at what goes in and what the output is. What is expected to reach, the outcome, the results, right? Social return on investment, entity two, most productive, right? More information is required. Absolutely. Right? So it just looks that way at first glance, yes, but deeper analysis will be required. Right? So we have to do these kind of deep analysis though internally to ensure that we are on the right trajectory as companies in terms of improving our productivity. And so it means that it's not just doing things, but we're doing the right things and we're doing it right. So it means being effective and being efficient. And it also has so many benefits, not just on a company level, but also on a personal level and a national level. So this may be a little hard to see, but what it does, it increases and boosts our revenues. It reduces waste within organization. It facilitates economic growth. It enhances employee well-being and attitude. It improves our organization and our procedures. Because if we're looking at productivity, if we're looking to do the right things the right way, right, we'll have all of these benefits. For example, if we're going to cut the lawn, we're going with a weed whacker or a scissor, a pair of scissors, which would both get the job done of cutting the grass, but which is more efficient and effective. So it's doing the right things the right way, right? So these are some of the considerations that we have to have and to assess. And I'm going to share, and if you know me, you know I like this quote, and I share it often, because we looked at the different definitions of productivity, the mathematical, there's an economic side, but this particular definition was coined in the 1950s, but I think it's still very relevant today, where it says that productivity is above all a state of mind. It's an attitude that seeks the continuous improvement of what exists. It's the conviction that one can do better today than yesterday, and that tomorrow will be better than today. Furthermore, it requires constant efforts to adapt economic activities to ever-changing conditions. And it's the application of new theories and methods. It is the firm belief in the progress of humanity. Now tell me, what's something that you recognize from this definition? Productivity is above all a state of mind. It's an attitude. It's a conviction. Right? It's a belief. right? It's telling us that we have to have a people-centered approach when it comes to productivity. It's all about you, exactly, right? It boils down to us, right? We cannot improve productivity without our people, whether they're working from home or in office. And we have to remember that it's above all a state of mind. We spoke in the chat earlier about mindset, and that, you know, the right approach and mindset needs to be changed as it relates to that, right? So it's a continuous change to do better, that adapting, right? It requires constant efforts. So it's not something that we can sit here and work on today. It's like somebody saying, you know, a spring clean, you know, from moving this house, a spring clean twice. And you know, the place still look, you know, like it needs some more work. Yes, because if you might need to do it once per quarter, once a year, probably not twice in 7 years, right? So we have to be constantly adapting to economic activities, because probably in that 7 years you had 2 children and everybody going to school and have books, so you have more things to throw away each time. So we can't just have a one size fits all to say, okay, I did this initiative just last year and look, you know, everything is gone back to square one. It only worked for 3 months. That means that probably we needed to have done another initiative at that 3-month mark. So it's something that we constantly have to be working on. And there's no magic bullet, no silver bullet, no one size fits all. So what works for company A might work different for company B. And same with us as individuals, right? In the chat, personal and professional productivity. What works for me might not work for you, right? And so we have to be mindful of those changes and those conditions, and to really constantly work at it. So, you know, we may make a change last week and this week is a different scenario. We experienced this where every so often we had different curfew situations, restrictions, etc. We didn't know what was happening next, kind of thing, and we had to adapt. And we did. We make it through, and we are here today speaking about this topic, right? So next week we might have to do something different, and that's okay. That's the environment we're living in. We have to be periodically reassessing our productivity outputs, definitely. And Alwyn, you said that productivity is dynamic and flexible. Absolutely. Right? The only thing that's constant is change, right? Right. Good morning, Maxine and Shane. Right. So when you look at even just some of the factors affecting productivity, so wide. So productivity is affected daily. So what does that mean? We daily have to be looking to see how we can improve our productivity within our organization, within our teams, and even within ourselves. Because as we grow and change, we need to be changing as well, right? Let me see. Right. Work from home, flexibility, needs employee trust and integrity. Absolutely, Juliet. I couldn't agree with you more. Right. So we have to change our approaches. For example, one of the things that I have been seeing just in speaking with partners in the region, one of the trends that is happening in the first world country is a move from human resources to people and culture. So they have actually banned that term, human resources, because now in this dispensation, it's more about the individual. It's not just a human, it's people we're dealing with, people and culture. So you're looking at your internal work cultures, the diverse cultures of the teams that we're working with now, to ensure that everybody can collectively contribute to the mission and vision of the organization. And I thought that was noteworthy, to see that trend to a more people-focused approach to how we do business. And I think we can adopt that, without waiting for everything to hit. We can start adopting some of those people-centric approaches. One of the things that was found in some of the statistics is that, on average, an employee is only productive for 2 hours and 53 minutes per day. But I know it's not this group that we're chatting to here today. We have the most productive group with us in Jamaica on this chat. So we know it's about 10 hours per day that we are putting in, right? Or more. But what was noteworthy is the fact that engaged employees are more productive. Not surprising, right? But it results in 21% increase in profits. Oh boy, Erica, 18 hours per day? Oh my goodness. I hope you're getting a raise soon. Right. Exactly, Vanessa. Thank you for your comments. I really enjoyed the lively discussion in the chat, right? And we're seeing that 41% of stressed employees says that stress negatively affects productivity. Stressed out people cannot work, right? They work, and we know what stress does in terms of our productivity. I was talking to somebody in the auditing field just last night, and a younger person, she's looking to leave Jamaica because of her workload. And, I just sat and listened to her speak, and you could see that she really wanted to do a good job, but she just had too much to do. And this is a higher paying job in another country with less to do. And so she's going for it. You can't blame her, right? But looking at the whole matter of engagement, just by engaging our employees, we can improve productivity and improve our profits. 21% increase in profits just by improving engagement, right? That could be a low-hanging fruit. Could it be something that we can work on? I found this very interesting. This results from Gallup, right? And it shows the importance of employee engagement. That in a typical workforce, only 31% of the employees are engaged, 14% are disengaged, and 55% are not engaged. Are you seeing this in your organization? Has it worsened with working from home, for example? Same boat, different engagement. What that results in? Lower productivity. Now, can you imagine now the 3 persons at the front here in this boat, ruined, tired, ruined for 18 hours, and the others trying to undo the work that the ones at the front are pulling. And then you have some dead weight in the middle doing nothing at all, just there for the ride. Right? So we need to get more people driving and in the same direction, whether we're working from home or in the office or a mixture. This is very important and something that needs to be considered. And this is something that, leaders can employ to check occasionally what the engagement is like. And it may mean a call, it may be a survey, but that is going to be important in how you design your program going forward. When I was in Rochester doing my master's, one of the things I love to watch is the rowing team on the river. And it was so interesting because you'd have one person at the head giving the cue, and the other persons, very, in harmony, very synchronous, rowing at the same time, pulling at the same with all exertion and going as fast as they can because everyone is in tune, on the same beat, heading in the same direction, singing the same tune, right? And that is something that we want in our organizations, a well-oiled machine, right? So there is a new phase of engagement where COVID and the pandemic has had negative impacts on employee engagement, which means there's a different approach that is needed in terms of our leadership styles. And that needs to be updated. So that's something, it's not just technical skills we're talking about. There's no soft skills that are employed. And I'm sure that Mind and other institutions would have updated their programs to include such activities so that persons are knowledgeable of what it takes to lead in this type of dispensation. So that's going to be critical for success of working from home going forward, right? And employee engagement strategies need to consider the spaces beyond the physical workspace. For example, access to the internet, having green spaces, etc. Some companies, even if you're working from home, one of the things that they have employed is actually a no screen time, where persons, are required to move away from the screen, go outside, take some sunshine, water the plants, something, right? So there are no meetings set up during that time, because it's just a time that's blanked out for everyone in that organization. And okay, that's your downtime. And I think that was noteworthy, so that's one consideration that persons can, employ. But even if we are at work, we should encourage that as well. Where we shut down and take a walk around the block, for example. We also see that more people are leaving their jobs, more are looking towards entrepreneurship these days. And it's something that the experts have coined the Great Resignation, right? We are seeing this true of especially white-collar workers. C-suites and senior executives are leaving their jobs. And I'll speak more on those trends going forward. So the Great Resignation or the Great Attrition, right? We're seeing 64% of employees considering leaving, right? Some of them don't even have another job on hand, right? 40% of employees say that they're likely to leave in the next 3 to 6 months, right? Employers believe that it's due to compensation, but 54% of the employees leave because they don't feel valued by their managers. Who said it in the chat here? Alwyn. The leaders need to be more appreciative of its staff. Alwyn Henry, you hit it. And making the staff feel as if they are needed. Entities need more relaxation breaks and interactive times among all, right? Let me just pull up this chat a little bigger so I can see it. Right, Andre, only possible handicap we have here is that managers expect to see their staff at their desk, even if they aren't being productive. As a result, this challenge for some managers to adapt to the work from home, even if their staff is being more productive. Slave driver mentality, right? Exactly. So there's a mindset change that is needed. But you notice how that appreciation ties in with the engagement piece, right? 51% of employees leave because they don't feel a sense of belonging at work. And now that they have had a taste of what flexible work arrangement is like, going back to that, what somebody says, slavish, where everybody is there and seeing them to it's going to be hard. And so we have to expect that if we are not going to adopt this going forward, we can expect to see the shifts that are happening globally. This is a later study that just got released from Gallup, where, on the matter of engagement, 85% say they are disengaged at their work, 30% are actively seeking a new work or new role, 91% of employees say management lack communication skills. 1 in 3 employees are distrustful of their employers. Somebody spoke about trust earlier, right? It should be a culture change as young adults don't appreciate their jobs. Exactly. Working from home needs to have clearly defined work objectives. Agreed with that. So the great resignation isn't a mad dash away from the office. It's a culmination of a long march towards freedom. 53% are unhappy. 53% of us are unhappy at work. Half of the working population. Wow. I found those very staggering statistics when I saw them this week. So I thought I would share it. So right. So that's something that we can look at. As we look in terms of the new age of remote working or hybrid working, this was a study done by PwC, and we see where 34% of persons want a hybrid situation where half in person, half remote, 25% mostly virtual, or 19% fully virtual. So most persons, we are moving to that age of a remote or hybrid situation, whether we want to or not, right? And, we are looking, the purpose is to have that work-life balance, to reap the benefits, etc., and to be safe, right? Communication levels, Alwyn is saying, from management and the general staff is very poor and needs to be significantly improved, and the statistics are true, right? Yes, it would be interesting to see the age range on this, and I'm sure they do have that, right? How remote work is impacting burnout. So we have some 24-hour days happening full on, meetings after meetings, right? So we're seeing the rise in remote work from 2020 to 2021, and this is from Asana, which is one of those productivity software tools for task management. And we've seen where 71% of employees globally experiencing burnout, and 87% of employees are working later. You've seen that, right? There is 1 hour of increased unnecessary meeting weekly, and there could be more, and 30% increased time spent on duplicate work, and 26% of deadlines missed due to work about work, right? And these are international statistics. And all of this impact us in terms of burning out, because it's just a lot to deal with. So again, when we're looking at a remote situation, this is something that we want to manage, right? The number of meetings, the time spent in meetings, how late we work, and that flexibility in work hours, for example, as well, so that you're not locked in necessarily to a 9 to 5. But if for example, a mother prefers to work at night when her children are sleeping and get the results in, why not? Why not? Right? So there are some opportunities that have popped up because of the pandemic, right? Productivity opportunities. We have tested the ground of flexible arrangements. We have improvements in online learning and delivery, and we have adopted technology to facilitate commerce and reduce time spent in waiting in lines, etc. Right? We have seen that in our own country, Jamaica, where a lot of companies, including small businesses, now have online and delivery options that weren't possible before. So we are seeing the shorter lines, the less traffic, although coming to this time, we're seeing an increase in the traffic, and the improvement in the delivery of online work, learning. Still sometimes a bit shaky, but I think we are better adapted now than before. So beyond 2021, there's a greater focus that is needed on worker well-being and work-life balance. And there needs to be more intersections of workers and technology in terms of collaboration. And that's an area where I think that we can improve on locally, is utilizing the technology for collaborative reasons, so that we can still have the interaction and the innovations coming out. Because yes, when we're in office, the phone will ring, somebody calls us, there are distractions there. But there's something that happens when you bring humans together in terms of, brainstorming and coming up with those innovative ideas. And these are the things that we're going to need going forward. The creativity and the innovation. Even if you're working from home, we have to ensure that we create that space utilizing the technology available that suits our needs. It may be tools that we have already. Office Suite has a whole package. There's another called Trello, one called Asana. Can't remember all of them now, but I've tested a few of them. And there are others, some, depending on what it is that you're looking at, you can be able to see, okay, how things come together. And some people just use Google, so those are considerations to have. And increased need for reskilling and upskilling is a must. More data is being collected now on employee productivity. So I mentioned it earlier, but let me reiterate it. When it comes to what's happening today, especially with remote work, we have to be capturing the data and to see what is working well and what isn't. That's the only way we're going to know what to do and what to tweak to make it better for us in our organizations. If we're not measuring, we can't improve. So we can't just say, oh, it never worked. Why it didn't work? What proof do you have? What measurements did you do? And that will enable us to make the decisions based on facts, and it's not opinions. Well, one person didn't submit something, but was it for everybody? What does that person need? What training could we give them to upskill them so that they are better able to be flexible or work remotely, right? In terms of our leadership, what are some of the soft skills that are required? And in the chat, we heard about communication. The upskilling is very critical. Yes, Laura, I agree, right? Lloyd Samuels, boy, we're recording and we're going to share with as many as possible, right? And Alwyn, I hear you. Some work is more difficult because of the process. And that's why you notice that even in the trends that we're looking at, persons opt for a hybrid more, where they're able to come in some days and some days they're able to work from home. And that flexibility helps with the creativity and the innovation and the output, because you have employees that are more relaxed, more accountable. Let's not forget that, right? So we want to collect the data, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that we are making those decisions based on facts. And education and training is going to be important. Let me continue. Right, so when it comes to working from home now, so, Juliet says hybrid works well. What are some of the things that we face? And we saw them in the chat, and in the study that we did earlier in 2020, they echo the same sentiments that are here in the chat. There has been a reduction in the late submission of tasks, for example. Working on documents can begin earlier, working from home, right? They don't have to contend with the traffic. One person said for some branches, it increased productivity as more persons feel more comfortable and relaxed getting the job done at home. But there are also cons, right? Some tasks can't be completed without the relevant systems in place. There's also the coordination that needs to happen, right? Lack of technology to support working from home was an issue. And we saw some of the other tasks that are happening, right? So not everyone can work from home. So sometimes it takes longer to get the task done as the person is not in office to deal with the matter, right? So these are some of our local experiences, and I know you can relate because we saw them in the chat. But how can we overcome these? By creating a more supportive environment, work environment, where we are looking at the connectivity, the partnerships, the education, the motivation, and the capital. going forward, right? So some of the things that we need to look at to become, to make it really work is the time management, well-being, and the tools, and to have all of those available. In terms of managing time, employees are now managers of their own time, right? And the pro of this is that workers can arrange to accommodate for their personal needs. They might take the lunchtime and, do something in the yard, or they might go and pay a bill. So there's more flexibility there when they can manage their time. But the con of that is that with working from home, is that the boundary between work and home is now blurred because everything is merged together. Right? Because usually, for many of us, work home was the place you go to rest, and now it's now a place of work. Right? So what some persons have done is to have a dedicated space, for example, that's just the workspace. So it doesn't get into the other, parts of the house, for example. Or some persons, they ensure that even if they're working from home, they get dressed as usual, go to that particular place and, work. And they may also have an alternative place. So if they get bored in one area and they get cloudy, they can move to another space and, get inspiration or, declutter the mind, for example. So those are some things that persons have done in terms of, looking at that blurred. And, having a consistent schedule is good, where you have, your working hours to get the work done. It's always good to be able to do that. So you have that downtime or sign-off time. And, in your teams to have that discussion of, those boundaries, because we still have to maintain some of that, going forward for our own sanity's sake, right? It is a hurdle. It is a hurdle. Yes, Ruth. Having a dedicated space and a schedule is very, very helpful. It helps to manage that, because we don't want a situation where we are just wound 24 hours a day and then we just crash, because that would, be a greater cost to you, the individual, and to the organization. And we want to have healthy, happy, engaged workers in our, working with us within our teams, right? Yes, Vanessa, you'd rather to work in the office, too much distraction at home, right? I had one colleague that said her place to work is at the beach. Different strokes for different folks, right? And when we're looking at performance management, right, we want to ensure that we use the technology that's available, using, for example, project management tools, time trackers, so that, for example, there are some apps that you can use to say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on this task, for example, and then I'm going to take a break. Or I might, move to another task. What I've done is, use my watch to say, all right, every 40 minutes, it tells me, you're sitting too long, right? I have, what we did at work, we have invested in some standing desks. So you can change your positions, for example, so you can improve your performance and management. I have colleagues who would have a standing desk and a treadmill, one of those portable treadmills on the floor, for example. So when you're in a meeting, they're getting their steps in, so they're exercising. Or something that, a friend of mine showed me the other day, and I'm going to show you, is to, even when you're in these meetings, you can actually be taking care of your health. And, by even carrying, for example, a resistance band at your desk and just pulling it. You can exercise, putting it across your legs, get some leg workout. That's an ideal way to multitask. But, it gets the blood flowing, keeps you engaged, and improves your performance over time. we are seeing where the physiotherapists and the eye specialists are being flooded now because we are not, taking proper care as it relates to working from home in this dispensation, right? So we want to, manage our results that time, use the technology, keep the lines of communication and cooperation open, especially when we're working in a remote situation. Clearly define your expectations, have in place a work from home policy, look at key performance indicators for each role or your teams with specific deadlines for certain items. Timely and effective feedback, regular check-ins are important. And of course, showing appreciation is a must. Right, so we can also devise communication systems to ensure that we have clear and effective messaging going forward. And both formal and informal communication are both important. So it might mean picking up the phone, giving persons a call. Hey, I noticed that you didn't log in this morning, or you were there at this meeting, or you didn't turn on your camera. Is everything okay? It's a different kind of approach that is needed. And the tools that we need, tools for our digitization. So like our records officer, can some of those records be digitized? Can we create that virtual document library where we have a shared folder that we can access? Reliable internet, is there anything that we can do in that regard? I had to call my internet provider before this meeting to ensure that we were having optimal internet connection so I don't lose you during this time. And we were able to get the speed up significantly by doing some simple things that at home that they carried us through, by rebooting, restarting, cold pulling and all of that good stuff. So, and having the quality equipment and tools available. You can't have somebody working from home, they don't have a laptop, or the laptop shutting down, overheating, can't keep files, that kind of thing. So that we need to have the tools that we don't add to the frustration. And we have to sharpen our knowledge and our skills. So training is key, right? And that's why you have Mind on board here, and access the competencies within your teams to know where the gaps are and fill those gaps with training and coaching, with the leadership in time management, technology, or technical abilities. And as it relates to time management, I been doing some reading on that, and what I've seen is not about managing time anymore. It's about managing our energies, right? We need our energy to be able to utilize the time wisely. And so we have to use it very efficiently, very effectively, especially in this dispensation. We manage our energies. Right? Energy is everything. And in terms of employee well-being, we have to be dealing with not only burnout, but mental health issues more now in this crisis situation. And this has to be considered, going forward, looking at not only physical, but mental well-being, and looking at the workloads to make sure that they are realistic. When we have the shifts in labor, you might have one staff left and they are doing 3 or 4 persons work. What's going to happen to that employee, right? So we have to look at the employee well-being, offer flexibility and benefits, whether tangible or intangible benefits. So measuring the data to inform or enhance productivity. So we spoke about making those decisions based on facts. And when we're looking at measurement, what measures get done? You can't improve what you can't measure. So if we want to improve something, we have to be measuring it, right? You can use simple ratios, looking at monitoring your timelines, customer satisfaction, employee engagement. These are just some simple ratios that you can use, are tools that you can use to measure. We have to do things differently going forward. It can't be the same old. It's not business as usual, as we said before. So we have to look and create that synergy between people and our strategy. Involve them in the strategic process. What are the strategies going forward? What can we realistically do? What can we do differently? What opportunities lie out there that we can capitalize on, that we may not be seeing? Engage them in that process, and it will help to bridge that gap. So everyone should come back to work now. Why? Productivity hasn't dipped. We're saving time and on commute. Why do you want us to come back to work, to office, so that I can monitor you better? Do we want to be like this person in this cartoon? Right? If we are measuring productivity, we are being efficient, we are being effective, we are seeing growth. How can we ensure that this continues? And can we create a hybrid situation for this to continue? So we want to focus on the outcome and not the process. And the process will vary from one organization to the next, and from one person to the next as well. Right? Yes, Corinne, why? And we do have a part to play, definitely. And yes, Julia, that's what we are seeing in the workplace, definitely. But we have to focus on outcome. So as leaders, we need to design plans that combine the preferences of their workforce and the core work that their organization needs to do well. Right? So it's a synergy between the two. And so we need to look at what it is. And when we understand, we can make the right decisions and design an appropriate framework or structure for our organizations. So in terms of steps for success, the first thing that we need to do is to shift our mindset, right? Then we need to look and define our goals and our metrics. Communication is going to be key. We can't be doing it in a silo. The silo approach won't work. Even if everybody is face to face, silos block communication, and that impedes growth and productivity improvement. Test, and measure, assess the testing, right? So you run a pilot and you measure. So if we are in a hybrid situation or a flexible or work from home situation, we need to be assessing to see what's working, what's not working, and then scale up. But the thing is to not stop getting better. Say, do another iteration, change something and see what works. Do another iteration, right? It's not about getting it perfect, it's getting it done, right? And improving each time on what exists, as we said earlier. There's a phrase that says, done is better than perfect, right? So, when we are working from home, we can be disruption ready. We can utilize the tools to increase our productivity so we are more focused on value-added activities. It can mean growth, and it can mean also an enhanced ability to serve, right? And I thank you for listening in. At this time, I want to stop so that we can have some time to discuss. And Georgia, are you there? Do you have the polls?
Yes, I'm here. You would like to launch the two polls now?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay.
So this first poll here Which scenario best demonstrates the concept of productivity? There's a single choice response. So first, employees are assigned the right amount of work, the right amount of time to complete a task. A factory produces and sells bedding and furniture, or a carrot farmer doubles the quantity of carrots she produces. So I give you a minute. So just respond.
Okay, persons are still responding, Tamar.
Sure. I'll give them a minute. Thank you, Lane. Alwyn. Yes, Vanessa, we will email it to you.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll in just about 30 seconds. So persons who have not yet registered their response, you just have a few seconds.
All right. Thanks, Loy. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Antoinette. It was our pleasure. Thanks, Wayne. Tamara.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, share the results.
Absolutely. What persons were listening, man? So I think we were very effective.
Okay, like
Right.
to launch the last one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks, Shana. Sharnaki, yes. Juliet, thank you. And thank you all for your interaction. Man, it was very, very good. I felt like I could see you. I felt the energy, which was very good. Thank you, Annette and Danielle and Marie. Yes. I will definitely be sharing the presentation with you.
Okay, I'll be closing the poll in a few seconds. We have just about 62% of you have voted thus far. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now.
Right. Definitely. Wow. I think mission accomplished, Georgia. We have some excellent
Indeed.
participants in this room. It was such a pleasure. I think you all deserve a round of applause for your excellent participation this morning. And I'm seeing where the response is that this should be shared with other persons, decision makers. We will be sharing the presentation. Please feel free to share it with others, and I'm sure that mine will have the recording to share as well.
Yes, yes, we will.
So please, and let us know of your improvement initiatives and growth, going forward. And we are here at the Jamaica Productivity Center, whenever you need. We are a phone call away, so you can have a chat with us. All right. So,
Okay, thank you, Tamar. Tamar, at this point, we'd like to open up for questions, asking that you kindly post your question in the chat. I'm going to give you a minute or so to start posting your questions so we can feel the same to Tamara. Tamar, you're seeing the chat, right?
I get used to it.
Okay, the commendations keep rolling in. Any questions for Tamar? So Tamar, there's one about any suggestions on working from home for admin assistance.
Wow, good one, Suzanne. All right. So, as it relates to work from home admin assistance, I think in that scenario, definitely organization and communication is key, right? It's something that I have been looking into as well. And, some persons have found it easier, for example, to, if they're working from home, the admin assistants is working from home that day. And when they're in office, they are in office with them, right? But it's very important, for example, for those, the admin team to keep in close communication with who they work with or who they support at all times. I find that is the key component. And usually it's not just through one media, for example. So utilize all the forms available. So, telephone, WhatsApp, email, use all the tools available to ensure that you have the collaboration going forward, to keep that going. And there will be the hiccups, you don't get an email or so forth. But it's kind of different from a face-to-face situation to feel the support, in a hybrid situation. But what I would say to you, Susan, is that it can work, because what I've seen also on the rise is virtual assistants. That has been something that has taken a huge upturn in this pandemic, where persons are even sourcing virtual assistants from the Philippines or, from India, where they have cheaper rates per hour. And they work for companies and persons in the LAC and the US. And that has been very effective. So, but what is important is a clear guideline on what it is that they have to do, when they have to do it, who does what. That's fundamental, because without having a plan, that's where you have the gaps and the inconsistencies happening. But having a clear plan of, okay, daily, we want this to be done at this time. You will do this, I will do that, that kind of thing, right? Right. So having a clear plan and communication, organization is key to answer your question. I hope that answers you, Suzanne, let me know if there's anything else, and you know where to find me as well.
There's a question, Tamar, about has a productivity formula been developed for the public service?
A formula. Well, I think, productivity, there's no one formula. For example, whatever applies to public also apply to private sector. So productivity, is not like sector specific or, approach, but the same approaches that we utilize in the private sector can and is being utilized in the public sector, but to different degrees, of course. But we continue to work with both in terms of improving productivity levels. So even at the moment, some of the things that we are focusing on is actually a more measurement focused approach. So we are strengthening the research capabilities within the Productivity Center to actually help provide data so that these decisions that are made and policy decisions are actually made based on facts. And we're working with and partnering with the University Department of Economics and other institutions to strengthen this research capacity within the team to ensure that we have data and to get data in by next year on a quarterly basis so that we can put those figures out there so persons can we can have a more proactive approach. So for example, even right now, the 2020 figures, we wouldn't get that from starting until next quarter, for example. And we are now, that would be in 2022. So what we want to develop is some forecasting models that we can, based on what's happening in the environment, to predict what the productivity levels can be. So that we are more proactive, as I mentioned, having a predictive approach so that we can make the necessary changes so we're not caught 1 year behind or longer before we make those changes that are required.
Okay. Another question, can you elaborate on what you meant by managing your energy instead of time?
Sure. All right. Well, I did a whole session on this the other day, but if you're looking at time, right? We normally just look at time and we spend time on a particular item, etc. But there's a whole new field around energy management. So personal energy management. So you're looking at, doing tasks with the right amount of energy, what gives you that energy, what takes away that energy, and how you can maintain that energy throughout the day so that you're not feeling, for example, drained, burnt out, etc. So you're recognizing what needs to be shifted. So you actually have consultants who are specialists in that area, and I can also share what they have. They have tool assessments, kits, that you can fill out the survey and it can tell you exactly where you are on that energy spectrum. If you need to, what you need to focus on, what areas you need to improve as it relates to how you carry out your activities as managers, as leaders. So that's something I can share the information with you more on that aspect.
Okay, there's a question here. For someone like me, I'm a design engineer coupled with being a project manager. How would you advise me in moving forward as it relates to working from home?
A design and project manager. Well, I think that you would have some key skills that are geared for 2030 and beyond. And, there are a lot of online opportunities and for your skill sets that's available. So I don't see where those skills will be, they will be more in demand going forward, actually, especially now where we have remote teams and diverse teams coming together, working in different continents, time zones. Those skills are going to be very, very important going forward. And, the world has opened up, especially since COVID, and we are seeing where a lot of our young people, particularly, not even working in Jamaica. They are here physically, but none of their clients, none of the work that they do is actually in Jamaica. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities there to utilize your skills in a digital space.
Okay, thanks for that, Tamar. There's another question that asks, with the flexible work legislation and arrangements in place due to the pandemic, do you think there'll be a further push for the continued hybridization of work?
Could you repeat the question?
With the flexible work legislation and in place, as well as the arrangements due to the pandemic, do you think there'll be a further push for the continued hybridization of work?
I think that more and more companies are adopting this model in terms of the hybrid format of work, yes. And there are even a lot of local companies who are working remotely indefinitely. They have given up their space for lease, and workers are working from home indefinitely. There are a few institutions like that. I know for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we'll be looking at some of the laws where that is considered, and the Jamaica Productivity Center will be involved in that going forward into the next financial year to see what amendments can be made to facilitate protecting workers and employees going forward in this, flexible work from home situation.
Thanks for that, Tamar. So we can only just take a few more questions given the time, and there's this one. Where would we find mean and mode measures for productivity in the government of Jamaica?
Well, we do have some statistics within our research unit that we can share. I don't know about mean and mode particularly, and that's one of the things that we are working on at the center, as I said before, in terms of measurement not only on the top level, but actually getting into the firm level experience, and to build that database that we can say, okay, this is where you are compared to others in your industry, and this is where you are compared to the rest of the LAC, etc. Right? One of the things that we don't have locally is a measurement culture, and that's one thing that we have to work on. We see it as being intrusive, that we don't share the figures with everybody in our workforce. We have another set of books, all different kind of reasons and things we embark on when we go out and do our productivity audits. And, oftentimes when we go out and do our interventions with firms, we have to actually set up measurement systems because we can't make the suggestions without some facts behind it. And we want, when we have left the intervention, that they're able to say, okay, we have improved. And the only way we can do that is through measurement. So, we set up surveys, set up templates to capture this information. But if every organization can actually work on improving their measurement systems, then we can have the data we need to be able to see where we are relative to where we need to be, and and make those changes that are necessary for us to really thrive in this economic space as a country.
Okay, while I continue to take the questions from participants, Tamar, I have a question for you. And it is, how does Jamaica stack up regarding its productivity levels vis-a-vis the rest of the Caribbean?
Okay. We have those. I didn't carry those stats with me today, but that's something that definitely, and Michaela is in the chat, that you can also call us and we can share those data. But there are countries that do better, yes. Some of our trading partners in the LAC, and we are usually not in the best situation, let's say that. And, when we usually show these figures in a session like this, is, persons would say, boy, they're depressed because we're not standing in a good way. So what we often try to do is to focus on, how we can do better, because we know we're not doing good. I showed one of the stats, and it, is negative 0.4 growth in one of the productivity areas, and 0.1 growth in the other area. Not very good stacked up to our Caribbean training partners, and definitely a lot of room for improvement, where we can look at creating more value and looking at converting the resources that we have, the skill sets, the talents, utilizing technology to our greatest advantage, to do more with the resources that we have, and to look internally to see whether, there are ways that are happening that we are not aware of, or that we can just stop. There are costs that, are probably just bleeding through the organization that you're not aware of. And this is what we often see within our firms and organizations. And we have to recognize that an economy is built on these firms and organizations. And these firms are built on us, the individuals. So, it's through these sessions that we try to motivate persons to be better today than yesterday, and that to do better tomorrow than they did today, and to continually look for ways to improve their productivity and to look for areas of growth and opportunities to capitalize on. And, we can also share those figures with you on the exact statistics, but as Michaela has said in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Tamar. I crave your indulgence, Tamar, for a few more minutes, as we feel we have a number of questions. We can't answer all of them, but there's this one. Have any consultations been held to facilitate the institution of a public sector productivity model?
We have several consultations, and we are currently having dialogue with several entities as it relates to that very same topic. And after this meeting, in another few minutes, I am going on a call with several such persons to discuss a proposal that we have in terms of an approach to really change and transform the whole matter of productivity going forward. How we can actually move that needle on a wide scale within the public and the private sector. So as soon as I'm finished with this call, I am heading onto that particular one so that we can roll that out before the next financial year.
Okay, wonderful. So there's a very interesting question now being posed. What is the JPC's approach to costs incurred by employees working from home, such as utility costs and increase in call charges for CUGs?
Okay. Now that is a topic that has come up a number of times, and that's actually something that needs to be discussed at the organizational level, where there's some arrangement in terms of what is covered and what isn't covered. So there are entities that would say, okay, we'll make sure that you have a laptop and a CUG, for example, and you take care of the internet connection, etc., and then you can work from home. There are some companies that have assisted with purchasing equipment for working from home. So, a desk or a chair, they have gotten, grants from work to assist with that so they can set up their home space. So it varies from company to company, and it really, is up to the organization. And, this is where the communication comes into play, to have that dialogue where there can be, that win-win situation between the worker and the employer. So, dialogue is going to be very important to come up with some mutually beneficial solutions that will work for the organization and the employee going forward. But we have seen that it varies from organization to organization, and it depends on, multiple factors.
Thank you for that, Tamar. I'm just going to ask all participants as we wrap up now that a survey link has been placed in the chat room, and we're asking you to complete that in terms of giving us your feedback on today's webinar. While you're doing that, I'm just going to wrap up basically and say that the Management Institute for National Development remains committed to providing learning opportunities for the public sector to ensure currency and relevance, and to equip employees with the knowledge to make evidence-based decisions. This intervention would not have been possible without the continued support of our CEO, Dr. Ruby Brown, the work of our creative production unit, managing this online learning space, the marketing team who worked tirelessly in promoting this webinar. But certainly, we are so grateful for the collaboration on this intervention with the Jamaica Productivity Center. Tamar and her team were so eager and supportive throughout the planning process. Tamar, your presentation was quite insightful and served to reinforce the benefits of remote working while highlighting the challenges. You are to be commended for engaging the participants with practical scenarios and examples, global data and statistics and trends. Those presented were insightful and, to say the least, quite alarming in some instances. Thanks for reminding us that production does not equate to productivity. We therefore need to engage employees differently with updated leadership practices. To you, our valued participants, thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules and for your continued support to the Mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the pleasure was mine being the moderator. Stay tuned for the next webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. Continue to be safe. Again, I'm asking you to please just provide us with some feedback. The survey link is in the chat. Tamar, kudos to you. It was a wonderful, wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the team at Mind, and thanks to the JPC team for putting this together as well.
Thank you so much. So just some housekeeping matters. We will share the video. The video will be shared on Mind's website. We'll also share with you the PowerPoint presentation as well. Thank you very much once again, and we do look forward to providing the public sector with the learning interventions for public service excellence. We continue to remain online as you complete the SurveyMonkey link to provide us with that much needed feedback.
and later as an executive agency of the government, the Management Institute for National Development, MIND, stands tall as a crucial driver to the transformation and modernization of the public sector in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean.
MIND is really the outgrowth of a combination of public sector entities, and the individuals who were very crucial in the formation of MIND and bringing the various entities together were Dr. Garnet Brown and Dr. Carlton Davis.
MIND continues to add to national development by providing the Jamaican public sector with quality leadership development options, management training, supporting services, and outreach that sustain a culture of enterprise, efficiency, and responsiveness to the publics they serve.
Training and development is really the heart of public sector transformation, and so we saw the need to bring a more coordinated and structured approach to how it is that we facilitated learning and development across our public service, and how we would want to see that supporting public sector transformation now and in the years ahead. And so, working with key stakeholders across the public service, we created the public sector learning framework. As a country, we want to be dynamic, and being dynamic means that we are going to have to keep in step with all the changes around us, and we need our public sector to be constantly developed so that we can transform as a public sector to be responsive to the needs of our citizens and to a developing economy and towards developed country status as well.
Registered with the University Council of Jamaica UCJ as a tertiary level institution, the programs and courses at MIND are offered at the certificate, diploma, associate of science degree, and postgraduate diploma levels. Yes! Over 50 individual offerings of programmed courses run throughout the year, utilizing the face-to-face and/or online delivery modality, in addition to those learning interventions that are facilitated in a customized format.
Here at MIND, we use a competency-based education and training philosophy. What that simply means is that our participants haven't completed a program here at MIND, they're able to go back to their organizations immediately to transfer that learning. We have 3 product lines: scheduled programs, where we deliver over 50 programs and courses on an annual basis, and that is presented to the public through a schedule of learning products, and so they'll look to see what are the product offerings and they can access those programs and courses. However, you have some of our clients who want something done specific to them, so we design, develop, and deliver those programs under a customized brand. We also have our consultancy arm of the business, and with that we respond to terms of references that will be advertised by our public sector stakeholders in the newspaper or on the online portal, or some of them will contract us directly.
MIND is pleased to introduce its newest product line, MindReach, which is aimed at empowering unreached and underserved stakeholders. Through this medium, MIND is able to connect with its local communities through various developmental and transformational projects. The institution's partners include Caribbean Leadership Project CLP, Center for Creative Leadership CCL, National College for Educational Leadership NCL, Cave Hill School of Business and Management, Jamaica Civil Service Association JCSA, Strategic Human Resource Management Division in the Ministry of Finance and Public Service SHRMD, and ministries, departments, and agencies of government.
The time that I spent at MIND and the subjects that I was exposed to, I mean, they have tremendously helped me in carrying out my work. I am considered a good leader in the JSF, or an outstanding leader, and it is as a result of my exposure to this training at MIND.
Having joined the Jamaica Fire Brigade in 1995, having understanding of my job, I realized that I would want to be a supervisor very soon. So I went seeking a course that I could do just to elevate myself. I went over to the MIND office in Mandeville, and the greeting and the welcome from the staff there was very encouraging. They gave me an entire manual to go through to see what I needed to do. My decision to attend MIND was the best decision I could have made as a young public sector worker. I encourage every public sector worker to seek out MIND, look at their programs, select something. There is something there for you.
MIND has solidified its mark as a center for excellence and continues to facilitate capacity building for national development and the continued transformation of the Jamaican public sector.
I choose MIND.
I choose MIND, and so should you.
I feel so privileged to represent the MIND.
For more information, contact us at 876-927-1761-3. Visit our campus at 235A Old Hope Road in Kingston or our website at www.mind.edu.jm.
Established in 1994 as the premier government training institution and later as an executive agency of the government, the Management Institute for National Development, MIND, stands tall as a crucial driver to the transformation and modernization of the public sector in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean.
MIND is really the outgrowth of a combination of public sector entities. And the individuals who were very crucial in the formation of MIND and bringing the various entities together were Dr. Garnet Brown and Dr. Carlton Davis.
MIND continues to add to national development by providing the Jamaican public sector with quality leadership development options, management training, supporting services, and outreach that sustain a culture of enterprise, efficiency, and responsiveness to the publics they serve.
Training and development is really the heart of public sector transformation, and so we saw the need to bring a more coordinated and structured approach to how it is that we facilitated learning and development across our public service and how we would want to see that supporting public sector transformation now and in the years ahead. And so, working with key stakeholders across the public service, we created the public sector learning framework. As a country, we want to be dynamic, and being dynamic means that we are going to have to keep in step with all the changes around us, and we need our public sector to be constantly developed so that we can transform as a public sector to be responsive to the needs of our citizens and to a developing economy and towards developed country status as well.
Registered with the University Council of Jamaica UCJ as a tertiary level institution, the programs and courses at MIND are offered at the certificate, diploma, associate of science degree, and postgraduate diploma levels. Yes, over 50 individual offerings of programmed courses